Now, the Iron Bowl pregame special, sponsored by Zaxby's and Alpha Insurance.
Behind these walls, between these lines, there's hard work, long days, sweat, concentration. There's a process, smaller parts forging together to make a solid unit, refined to sort out impurities and achieve perfection. It builds homes and divides houses. It makes monuments and creates moments.
Auburn has won the Iron Bowl!
It runs deep. It's in our blood and courses through our veins. It epitomizes strength and personifies power. The old proverb says that iron sharpens iron. Tonight, may the finest edge prevail. It's Alabama. It's Auburn. It's the Iron Bowl.
After counting down the months, weeks, and even the days, now the Iron Bowl is just hours away.
Number 1, Alabama. Number 6, Auburn, getting ready to go head-to-head with the possibility of championships on the line. Hello and welcome to Jordan-Hare Stadium in the heart of Auburn University's campus. I'm Chase Horn.
And I'm Taylor Tannenbaum. Now, everything that's happened up to this point is really irrelevant so far this season. Sure, Alabama is undefeated. Auburn has 2 losses, but you might as well just throw that out the window at this point. Today is what really matters and what will determine the future path for both teams. Now, before we get into this big, gigantic, humongous, whatever you want to call it, matchup today, let's take a look at how both teams actually got here. We're going to start first with the home team. They are the ones hosting. Auburn is 9-2 right now, but back in September, if you remember, most people never thought that would be their record. Clemson basically mopped the floor with Jarrett Stidham, sacking him 11 times. Auburn lost 14-6. Their troubles in Death Valley continued into mid-October. After building an early lead against LSU, Auburn fell apart in the second half to notch loss number 2. But that's when things changed for the Tigers. They went on the road and knocked off Arkansas, Texas A&M, then right here 2 weeks ago, the Tigers took down the top-ranked Georgia Bulldogs. So here we are now with a chance to book a trip to Atlanta for the SEC Championship.
On the other sideline, Alabama. It all started with the hyped-up season opener against Florida State. That game turned into a one-sided affair with the Tide spanking the Noles. From there, they just kept rolling. The Tide started off conference play with a convincing 59-0 shutout over Vanderbilt. That's about how it went the rest of the way until 2 weeks ago, a trip to Starkville. Mississippi State took the Tide to its limit, but Jalen Hurts marched the offense down the field with under a minute to play to keep their undefeated record intact. The question now is, can they hold off these Auburn Tigers? There's a ton on the line tonight, way more than just bragging rights. The winner clinches the West and is heading to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to face Georgia in the SEC Championship game. But it's for more than just a conference title. It's a national title, too. The winner of the Iron Bowl will be in prime position to advance to the college football playoff.
The committee released the latest rankings this past Tuesday. Drum roll, please. Alabama is sitting at number 1 with Auburn on the outside looking in at number 6. That's why this is a must-win for the Tigers.
The ACC has 2 teams represented right now. Miami at 2, even though the Hurricanes did lose to Pittsburgh yesterday. And Clemson at 3. That, of course, will sort itself out when they play for the conference championship. Oklahoma at number 4. Undefeated Wisconsin on the bubble in 5. They win the Big Ten. They're likely heading to the playoff.
7 of the last 8 years, the winner of this game has gone on to play for a national championship. I'm just saying. So if you take a look back, remembering back to last year's Iron Bowl 2016, the main topic heading into the game was Auburn's quarterback carousel. Even this deep into the season, they were still juggling 3 guys at the position. We actually didn't find out who would be starting the game till about 2 hours before kickoff, actually during this very special. Well, this year, a much different story. Jarrett Stidham has been the undisputed leader for the Tigers since week 1. Now, the gunslinger hailing from Stephenville, Texas. Yeah, for the Auburn Tigers, he's brought balance to an offense kilter. He leads the SEC in completion percentage and has thrown for 16 touchdowns. Get this, that's more than 5 more than the trio of QBs combined for last year. Puts it into perspective. We know Auburn is run heavy, but now Stidham gets another element to prepare for.
Obviously, being new in the system, he has, I think, improved and is very, very confident, very good decision maker, really understands what the expectation is for what he needs to do to effectively run their offense, whether it's throw RPOs or hand the ball off or pull it every now and then on his own read. And he's playing as well as any quarterback we played against, that's for sure.
Of course, the quarterback play for Nick Saban's squad has taken a step forward as well.
Jalen Hurts picked up right where he left off, last season's SEC Offensive Player of the Year. His numbers, not as flashy, but that's because he's typically for the fourth quarter even ranks 15th in offense. The Auburn defense knows containing that very important.
He's a tremendous quarterback, has a lot of size. Like I said earlier, he's a running back at quarterback. But he also has a great pressure. A lot of defensive coordinators have to do different things just to focus on him. Well, this game we want to respect our opponent. So we got to respect him and his talents and his ability to run the ball because he's carrying the ball more than the running backs.
They say behind every good man, there's a great woman. Well, behind every quarterback, there's an offensive coordinator. For both Stidham and Hurts, it's a first-year guy manning the post.
Chip Lindsey and Stidham have been on this new journey together, and together they've taken the Auburn offense to greater heights. At the capstone, Brian Dable added some new wrinkles and has helped develop the Tide's young signal caller.
Football side of things, me and him, we see eye to eye on pretty much everything. So it's nice to, shoot ideas off of each other and kind of pick each other's brains a little bit and just, kind of build that chemistry.
Jalen has made a lot of progress this year in terms of his pocket presence, his ability to make decisions down the field as to where to throw the ball. I think Brian has done a good job of helping him develop those things.
While both coordinators sure feel comfortable putting the ball in their quarterback's hands, make no mistake, these offenses like to grind it out on the ground.
Alabama and Auburn run the ball almost twice as much as they throw it. They both rank in the top 20 in the country when it comes to rushing offense. And why not with guys like Damian Harris and Bo Scarborough for the Tide, Kerryon Johnson and Cameron Petway for the Tigers. Petway has been ruled out with a bad shoulder, but KJ has proven he can carry the load, and that might be an understatement. The former Madison Academy Mustang leads the SEC in rushing and total touchdowns. That performance has him in the Heisman conversation. Now, I'm going to take a minute for a humble brag. I'm one of the lucky few media types that gets a vote for the Heisman Trophy. So has Kerryon Johnson done enough to get himself an invite to New York? Let's find out. It would make sense that Gus Malzahn is campaigning for a star running back to win the top individual award in college football. He said as much after Auburn's win over Georgia.
A couple weeks, he's one of the best running backs in the country, if not the best. He proved it tonight, and he needs to be in the Heisman talk.
But to find out if he truly belongs in the Heisman picture, he does.
Oh, I definitely do. But if I'm not, it's not going to stop me. I'm going to keep running next week and a week after that. If I am, same thing's going to happen. I'm just going to keep running.
We have to see how he stacks up against the other top backs in the country. So first, to look at his numbers. This year, Johnson has a career high in rushing yards with just under 1,200 and 16 rushing touchdowns. He's also been a contributor in the 150 yards and a pair of scores. What about Penn State's Saquon Barkley? He was a Heisman favorite early in the year, but he trails Kerryon in every rushing category. Barkley does have more total yards from scrimmage with over 1,600 rushing and receiving combined, and he's been a contributor in the kick return game. Bryce Love from Stanford sure has a case. Despite missing one game due to injury, he's second in the country in rushing yards with 1,723 and has 16 touchdowns to go with it. His 300-yard effort against Arizona State. And of course, we haven't even mentioned quarterbacks like Oklahoma's Baker Mayfield. He's probably the odds-on favorite today. And last year's winner Lamar Jackson, all with legit claims to the trophy. But Kerryon Johnson is definitely putting together a solid resume that deserves consideration.
Kerryon is about as good as it gets, in my opinion. I mean, he's a workhorse. I mean, he can do everything that you ask, whether it's running for 100 whatever yards, receiving, protections. I mean, he's really the whole package.
the term Heisman moment often thrown out for players like Kerryon, and with this huge Iron Bowl matchup and potentially, not making a pick, potentially the SEC championship next week, he has 2 more opportunities to make his case to voters like me.
Yeah, I'm not a voter like my boss over here. I'm not one of the lucky ones, but I do like to see KJ making big plays. We're always proud of him. Now, Alabama, on the flip side of things, they're not complaining about their running back situation either. They have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4, and then some guys, all extremely capable of toting the pigskin. Now, statistically speaking, as a whole, they lead the conference in rushing, but it all starts with Damian Harris. Because they like to spread the love, the junior does have less than half the amount of touches as Kerryon Johnson, but he makes every single one count. Get this, he averages 8.2 yards per carry. That's nearly a first down every single time he touches the ball. So here's how the 2 bell cows stack up against each other in nearly every category. KJ has topped 1,000 yards on the season, first time in his career. Harris is inching closer, may get there if he has a really good game today. KJ has a few more touchdowns, but Harris, like I said, leads in yards per carry.
One key difference, though, receiving. KJ more versatile when catching the ball out of the backfield. Harris, a little more of a traditional back. Either way, 2 dependable guys, and when it comes to each other, game-recognized game.
He just has all the tools that you need to be a great running back in not only this league, but in the country. And he runs with power, he runs with speed, he makes people miss, and he's a good receiver out of the backfield. So I think that he has all the tools that you need in order to be a great back. And I've watched a lot of tape on him, just appreciating how he is as a running back. So you like to see guys like that.
We noted how Alabama likes to spread the love between its running backs. Big Bo Scarborough has over 500 yards and 7 scores on the year. Then, of course, Josh Jacobs, our recruit Najee Harris. Both of those guys have found the end zone this season as well.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Offense is just won this giant game. Coming up, we'll take a closer look at the defenses. We'll be back after the break.
Welcome back to Auburn in our pregame Iron Bowl kickoff special. Taylor, we've talked a lot about offense in the A block, but of course, there's a whole nother side of the ball, and you got to be able to stop offenses if you want to win today.
Yeah, it's pretty simple how the game of football goes, right? the old saying, offense sells tickets, defense wins championships wasn't created for nothing. Now, the 2 units that we'll see tonight behind us inside Jordan-Hare Stadium are about as good as it can get. Statistically speaking, both teams are ranked in the top 20 nationally in almost every major defensive category. Alabama's D, led by Tennessee Valley native Jeremy Pruitt, is ranked #1 in the country. Surprise, surprise. They allow an average of 244 yards and only 10.2 points per game.
But Auburn not far behind. They're at 16.6 points allowed per contest, ranks 8th in the country. They're 303 yards, good for in a top 10 spot. So it's safe to say there won't be an easy yard in this game.
Christian Miller, Terrell Lewis, Mac Wilson, and Sean Dion Hamilton have all gone down. They've been watching from the sideline with so many guys out. Saban has had to play much younger, less experienced guys, and the coaching staff has had to adapt.
Having the patience to teach rather than have an expectation for what they may or may not be able to be ready to do, and then show your disappointment when they don't do it. So, and I think that's something our staff has done a good job. And I think that a guy like Dylan Moses played a lot better this past week than before, probably because of that.
Another player with health issues is safety Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, he tweaked his hamstring against LSU and set out against Mercer for rest. Minkah has practiced this week. Saban says he's day-to-day, but we expect to see the Tide's best player on the field this afternoon. No way he's going to miss this one with everything on the line. And while that's great news for Alabama, not so great for Auburn.
I think he's one of the best or the most talented players in all of football. He's got an ability to do just about everything you would want. He's got experience. He's very savvy. He can rush a passer. He comes off the edge. He plays the run. He dissects route combinations. He's a dominant player, and he's well earned that right to be talked about in the best players in the country.
Hey, now let's turn to Auburn's defense led by coordinator Kevin Steele, and it all starts up front for the Tigers. Derek Brown, Dontravius Russell, Marlon Davidson, and Jeff Holland have terrorized quarterbacks all season. They know how to get after the passer. Holland, in particular, has just balled out. He leads the Tigers with 8.5 sacks this season, 11.5 tackles for loss. Oh, and by the way, 4 fumbles forced. So ball security is key when this coming your way. That's something are well aware of.
You know, the guy's obviously very instinctive as a football player, but he's got some real quickness off the edge, but he's also a physical guy and can turn speed to power, and I think is very effective in what he does, actually. The guy's a really, really good football player.
Prepare the best way we can. We know what we're going up against. We're just going to have to execute the best way we can this week.
These two teams apply the pressure. They both rank in the top 5 in the SEC when it comes to bringing down the quarterback. Auburn a slight edge with 32, and even with all the injuries at linebacker, Alabama right up there with 30. Texas A&M sets the standard with 36.
Chase mentioned taking care of the football. Here, when it comes to turnover margin, they lead the league ways, including 15 interceptions. They've only given up the pigskin 7 times all season. It's no question ball security can make or break a big game like this.
First and foremost, we got to limit our turnovers if we have any at all. You know, defenses obviously feed off of that, so that could be catastrophic. And second of all, we got to stay patient. We realize they're a good defense. They're ranked or whatever they're ranked, and so obviously they're going to be good. But we're up for the challenge, and we've got to be patient. If we get 5 yards, we got to take it. If we get 20, we got to take it. If we get 3, we got to take it.
Auburn is not too shabby in the turnover margin. They have 17 total takes, the amount of turnovers as the Tide. Just note, as many times as has carried the ball this season, he a fumble. That's pretty good.
So as Gar, 3 points scored, obviously. Both these offenses. Alabama's balanced attacker, Auburn's no-huddle spread to get their big plays in. Nick Saban says how you respond to those big plays is what matters.
I think you got to have mental toughness to be able to play the next play. Keep your poise. Don't lose your poise. Don't lose your focus. Be able to go execute the next play after they make a play, especially if they're going fast. Got to get lined up. Everybody's got to play together. Everybody's got to do their job and their responsibility. And I think that's the key to not reeling in a game.
With all of this hype, all of the implications, with it being a top 10 matchup, today kind of feels like deja vu. What do you think, Chase?
I've seen it before.
Gus Malzahn seems to think so, too. It's almost like, yeah, he's seen it before, too.
You got the Iron Bowl, it's big. And you add the Iron Bowl with the possibility of a SEC West Championship. It feels like 2013. It feels exactly the same way. And it's a big game, and it means more. And so it feels the same way.
If this game is anything like 2013, we're in for a real treat at Jordan-Hare Stadium. But back to Alabama's defense, just a quick note. According to multiple sources close to the Alabama football program, linebacker Christian Miller will get the start today. He's been out since suffering a bicep injury in the season opener, so that would be a huge get for Bama with depth issues at that linebacker position.
All right, here we go. 56-yarder. Does not have the leg. And Chris Davis takes it in the back of the end zone. 10, 15, 20, 35, 40, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win. Auburn's going to win the football game.
Chills every time, am I right, Chase?
Man, I can feel it.
Rod Bramblett on the call that Auburn fans will never forget. Alabama fans wish they could. The infamous kick 6 giving Auburn the win in the 2013 Iron Bowl. You know, we are actually 4 years removed from that moment, but wow. I don't think there's ever going to be a year in this rivalry that we don't talk about the kick 6.
Not at all. I still get goosebumps every time I hear that audio. But Taylor, from Adam Griffith to all the other guys that have come in Auburn's kicking game, they haven't got any stability. But the crazy thing is, they could have had Daniel Carlson in that lineup, one of the best kickers in the game, Auburn's place kicker, who actually wanted to come to Alabama. The Tigers' golden boot is a 3-time Lou Grollis, and this season he became the leading scorer. You know what they say, Taylor? Kickers are people too.
Respect. Get this, Carlson actually grew up an Alabama fan, wanted to play his college ball in Tuscaloosa, but Nick Saban never offered him a scholarship. When the kick 6 happened, Carlson was a redshirt freshman standing on the sideline for the Tigers. Now, hypothetically speaking, this is all hypothetical. What if Saban had offered Carlson? Could he have nailed that 57-yarder?
I mean, I like to think so, but, you know, maybe I'll get an opportunity this Saturday, but we'll see. That was my redshirt year, so I'd love to go out, kind of with a bang. I came in with a bang in a special Iron Bowl.
Kicking has been much more consistent for the Crimson Tide this season, and his name game's on point too. Andy Papanastos, 15-19 on three-point attempts. He's also perfect on extra points. The senior from Montgomery was held out against Mercer with a pulled muscle. Saban says he'll be a game-time decision today, but they're hopeful. Now to someone born and raised in Alabama. You don't need to explain the magnitude of the Iron Bowl, but not everyone playing in tonight's game grew up crying War Eagle, or for the out-of-state athletes, they quickly learn how crazy it can be and have come to appreciate how special this rivalry is.
I mean, I watched the game when I was back at home in New Jersey in high school and stuff, but I never really realized how much it meant, to everybody down here. Like, it's almost another holiday to people down here. It's pretty funny, but it's pretty cool just seeing the tradition and the rivalry.
This is exactly why I came here, to play in a game like this, with these kind of implications. I mean, this is why you play Division I football, especially at a place like, Auburn in this state.
Auburn quarterback Jarrett Stidham and Alabama running back Damian Harris didn't grow up on this rivalry. They're not from the state of Alabama, but still, this game does mean a lot to them. That's because these two guys actually know each other pretty well. Tonight, they'll take the field on opposite sides of the ball, competing for an SEC West championship to head to Atlanta. But go back a few years, back to when they were a young 7 years old. The two actually lined up on the same side of the ball, and together they celebrated a Little League tackle football title.
We were the best. We went undefeated, won the Super Bowl.
Stephenville, Texas is Stidham's hometown, but Auburn was born in Grass State. That's where he met Alabama's leading rusher.
I think it's crazy where we started and where we're coming from, and then playing on the same team, him handing me the ball when we were 7, 8 years old, and then turning around playing against each other in the greatest rivalry in all of college football.
But there was a point when tonight's reunion at Jordan-Hare almost didn't happen.
I didn't even start playing until like halfway through the season because I hated football back then. I hated wearing helmets. I hated my helmet was too tight.
It was on that Kentucky field that Damian the love for the game.
And mom drinking up all the water. My mom came down from the stands and she just started yelling at me. She's like, "You're not gonna waste my time, waste your time, waste everybody else's time. So either you're gonna play or we're gonna go home." So I was scared of what would happen. So that was when I scored my first game winner.
Damon, I could tell at a really young age that he was gonna be a really, really good football player. And like at that age, you don't really throw the ball very much. So it's pretty much just hand it off to him and let him do his thing. And I, ran the ball every now and then.
The dynamic duo went their separate ways after winning the Super Bowl, but kept in touch as their careers evolved.
He told me that he was thinking about going to Auburn, so I just prayed everything I could pray to that he wouldn't go to Auburn. But he ended up going there, and I was happy for him in the decision. So it'll be good seeing him, watching him play for the first time in college.
I'm excited to see him again. I mean, like I said, he's a close friend, so I'm excited to play against him.
Yeah, who would have thought that their paths would cross again like this? Actually, if you keep up with them on social media, the two of them, they like to comment on each other's pictures and their tweets, so they have stayed close over the years. Just a really cool story on their lifelong friendship.
Love that cross-rivalry bromance.
Love it. It's a bromance. That's exactly what it is. It's a bromance.
Such a fun story. Hey.
256, baby. North Alabama, you may recognize that face. That's former Muscle Shoals standout Jordan Peters. I like Jordan Peters. There are a lot of prep stars around the Tennessee Valley that grow up dreaming of donning the orange and blue or the crimson and white.
And the 256 very well represented on both sidelines in this game today. A lot of them going to play a major impact just like Jordan Peters has, and we'll start by letting you know these guys on the Auburn side. Peters, just talked about him, only a freshman, but he's been a staple on special teams. Not only does he have a sack on the season, he has a pass breakup and a forced fumble. Madison Academy, a pipeline to the Plains, of course. Kerryon Johnson, talked a lot about him. And fellow running back Malik Miller, he's actually scored his first touchdown of the season last week against Louisiana Monroe.
Some other local guys on the roster. Another MA name, freshman lineman Austin Schroxel. We also have senior tight end Caleb King. He's from Westminster Christian. Senior D lineman Tyler Carter added Decatur, and former Albertville quarterback Will Appleton. Moving on to Alabama, redshirt sophomore Keaton Anderson has seen the field in all 11 games this season. He's a special teamer for the Tide out of Florence High, critical part to their special teams, might I add. Now, a guy who didn't expect to play much this season is true freshman D lineman LeBrian Ray. The James Clemens alum got his opportunity early with all of the injuries on that side of the ball. He is a player way ahead of his years.
Couldn't agree more. There are a handful of Jets for the Tide. Junior Ryan Paris and freshman defensive back Kyreek McDonald. How about former Tanner star Chadarius Townsend? He's also a rookie. Then there's another Wildcat from Westminster, Jacob Parker. Then a trio of Bob Jones Patriots include tight end Sean Goodman, wideout Jonathan Rice, and the punter Mike Bernier. But unfortunately, LeBron Ray will not play in this game today. He broke his foot last week during practice, so he's out for the foreseeable future. But before that injury, LeBron was balling out, seeing more and more playing time in that defensive line rotation and making an impact, something that came at no surprise to his former high school head coach. Just 9 short months ago, LeBron Ray was the #1 prospect in the state of Alabama. And on National Signing Day, he announced that he was staying in-state and heading to Tuscaloosa to play for the Crimson Tide. Being a freshman, he wasn't guaranteed playing time, but when injuries forced Nick Saban to burn his red shirt, everyone back home knew Ray would make the most of his opportunity.
It's not surprising at all to see him having the success that he's having, and I think he's going to be a household name for Alabama fans over the next few years.
Mond has to leak out again and extend, and he is brought down by Ray.
The neatest thing about that was just the emotion that he showed, because he's a very unemotional kid, and even here through his time here, make great plays, big time plays, a part of big things in our program, and just always kept a real calm and cool demeanor. But to see him show the excitement and the emotion of that, I can't imagine what he was feeling.
That was Ray's first career sack at Alabama. But don't ask. James Clemens head coach Wade Waldrop isn't in the business of making predictions, but he knows what kind of player and person Ray is. And Coach Waldrop sees nothing but success for the former Jet at the next level.
I just know their players. There's not a better guy anywhere to fit the expectations that are going to be put on him on a daily basis there. So, yeah, the sky is the limit. I could see, if things go his way, he stays healthy, I think he can play football for a long time.
Really hated seeing Ray go down with that foot injury last week, but you just heard Wade Waldrop say it. He's a guy that can definitely bounce back to have a successful career, and who knows, maybe Alabama goes to the playoff, Ray might make a comeback.
Yeah, when you play as a true freshman at Alabama, you're special.
Absolutely.
So here in Huntsville, we're always rooting for number 89, and we hope for a quick recovery for LeBron Ray. But speaking of special, this special isn't over just yet. Coming up after the break, we'll have our keys to the game. We become the experts. You'll want to hear it.
We're just over an hour away from kickoff. That's a live look at Toomer's Corner, Taylor. Auburn fans hoping they get a roll that baby all over the place, just like 2013, the last time the SEC championship trip was on the line.
Toilet paper in their back pockets, hoping that it happens. All right, Chase, it's about that time for us to put on our expert caps.
Yeah, no picks, but we're going to give you our keys to the game. We'll start with Taylor. Taylor, Alabama or Auburn win if...
I think the key to this game is really our local superstar, Kerryon Johnson. Now, Auburn's been playing its best football in the month of November, and get this, Kerryon Johnson has accounted for more than 1/3 of Auburn's offensive yards. Now, that's a whole lot, so basically the Tigers go. Now, if he can establish himself against this, Tigers can score some points, stay in control. If not, going to have a tough time producing. Alabama will roll on to Atlanta with a little bit of trouble.
For me, I think it all depends on how fast Auburn starts. Obviously, the Tigers gates like they did against Louisiana, but no matter how good of an offense you had of a whole against Alabama, but I also think enough to hold, if they can, jump out and get some points on Alabama in a hurry.
I agree with you. I think maybe we could be out on the sideline coaching. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Hey, game's coming up in just a little bit. Thank you to everyone involved in the story. Seth Junior back in the studio. Alex Lynch behind the camera. Enjoy the game, guys.